Well, hedonic adaptation, I agree, is a fact, and it's one of the things that I had in mind when I said, in response to your question about Tyler Cowen, that it's not so clear to me that people 100 years now are living on 10 times our per capita GDP rather than 5 times our per capita GDP. They're going to be all that much happier. Um, so I think that's true, but I don't agree with Harari's claim about hunter-gatherer societies. They may have been happy in many ways at many times, no doubt, when they were well-fed. No doubt they enjoyed sex as much as we do, although I suppose they couldn't avoid the consequences of pregnancy. But I think the negatives, the suffering that they had that they could not alleviate, must have been much worse. So, if they injured themselves and broke a bone, then they might be in great pain that couldn't be relieved, and might, the injury might fester and go gangrenous, and they might die a slow and horrible death. And well, I just mentioned childbirth or pregnancy in the relation to sex. So again, women must have suffered a lot more in childbirth when that went wrong. We know that maternal mortality rates were, of course, very high. So I think that they had a lot of things went wrong that we have better solutions for. So I think what our greater wealth and scientific knowledge, technology does, is to enable us to avoid some of the worst forms of suffering that people used to experience, and not just hunter-gatherer societies, but even in the 19th century, people suffered horribly from simple things like toothache, which we can generally get attended to pretty rapidly. So I think that we can make people happier, that I think increasing GDP and spreading it around the world does make people happier by reducing severe suffering. And that's not something that we ever adapt to. In other words, there isn't the negative of hedonic adaptation, that suffering stops hurting after a while. I'm not nihilistic. I think that we can make progress in improving the world and bringing everybody up to a certain level. Whether there's then a ceiling on this level because of hedonic adaptation, that's possible. I couldn't confidently say that that's wrong, but no doubt we'll learn more about that as we get to the situation where we've got everybody, or most people, up to that level, and we don't have to worry about extreme suffering anymore, and we're only thinking about, can we increase people's happiness?